I think that's a phase that all trans women go through, of being gay, being feminine. And then they move into becoming a trans woman. Because once they find their inner core, then they realize that, oh, I want to be a woman. You try to make them realize that the most important thing in life is the personality.
Right.
The person you're raising,
Right.
not the sexuality.
Jen, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us today and sharing your story with us.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so your story begins in Ilocos Sur in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Growing up there, what was it like being gay and growing up in such a conservative country as the Philippines?
It's pretty much between the sea and the farm. That's where I live. It's a beautiful view. However, growing up as feminine was an additional challenge. So you face a lot of bullying and laughed around in school and out. But I think I was able to overcome that with the thought in mind that I need to be the number one in the class. I need to be the brightest in the community so that I won't be facing those kinds of bullying.
Right.
And it worked.
And that's very smart of you. And in fact, that also enabled you to come out in a way to your parents and for them not to judge you as much.
I grow up with the thought in mind that if you are a good person and if you do good to other people, they will give that back to you, that kind of respect. It's not like really a decent situation to be in, because being gay and being feminine, that's a culture that's not really acceptable, even though it's tolerable in the community like the Philippines.
If you think about it, tama ka eh. Kasi yung iba, tinotolerate na lang, they can't do anything about it, but they won't really accept you.
Yeah.
And sometimes even parents are like that. Di ba meron yung in denial na,
That's true.
what was your experience like?
The transition wasn't easy. I think my parents were okay with me being feminine. But it was more of my siblings, especially my brothers, were really against it, especially competing beauty pageant.
Right.
Just the way I act and moved and talked, they worry of me becoming a trans woman and work as an escort and work as a dancer, right? They've been not really okay with it. So it was more of the siblings that I faced bullying.
How painful was that the bullying came from within your family, from your brothers?
It was difficult. I think it came to a point that I was having bad dreams. It was a trauma. Like I would find myself waking up on handcuff or being tied, just because I was feminine. So when I was starting to do pageant, I would run away at night. Like I would jump on the window.
Right, just to join.
Just to join. But my parents were supportive at that time. They would put the ladder at the back of our house.
Wow.
So I can leave and run
Right.
away.
Why couldn't your parents talk to your brother and tell him?
They did. But that was a part of me that it's dark. I think it was an experience that I just have to live through with it. And I said, I hope one day I will have the freedom, that I will be free. So that's why when I moved to US, and I said, finally.
Right.
And then I was able to support myself. And that's when I came out, like, this is who I am.
But at what age did you know that you were different? And at what age did you start dressing up as a woman?
I think at the age of 6, I see my sister wearing high heels, and because she's tall, and they also did beauty pageants when they were young. So I would wear those high heels, I would wear those dress at home and like be in front of the mirror. And I said, oh, I really want to be a woman. This is what I want to become one day. So that was a part of me. But when I moved to San Francisco and I found out about gender affirmation care by Kaiser, and that's when I said this is the right community, and this is the community I really wanted to fulfill my womanhood, like
Right.
yeah,
Right.
the being complete.
Right. Your story is not the typical Filipino story where their parents were against their choice in terms of gender, right? Your parents were very supportive, as you said. Was there ever a point where you had to come out, or did they just know, and was it just gradual for you? What was it like?
I think my family knew already, and a few years before I came here, that's when my siblings came to realize that, I'm not like other transgender woman who, trajectory or like become a trans woman and move to, Japan, because that's what they worry of me becoming a trans woman, that I will be wasting my education and opportunity to become a professional.
Right.
So a few years before coming here, I competed in a pageant within our town, because that I used to be not joining pageant within our town because I don't want my family to know about it, or my friends or the people, right? Because otherwise I would be in trouble.
Right.
But a few years before coming here, I joined the pageant, and that's when the people talked about me and talked to my family, and especially to my brother. I said, you should be proud of your sister.
Right.
She's really good.
Tell me about that time when your dad was invited to an event, because to me, that was such a nice story.
Yeah, I think I was so surprised that morning, because I wasn't even aware that he was invited by the mayor to go attend a fiesta in the town of Condon. So he came home, and that morning he was telling about the story about what he watched and all that, the beautiful trans woman. And then he told me, I was like, all of a sudden, I was like, I think you can do that.
Wow, your dad's told you that.
Yeah, so that was the confirmation. I said, oh, it's going to be okay.
Aw, yeah, that's so
Yeah.
touching. Didn't have to say anything to them. They knew, and he even came home and encouraged you to do it. Now, I hear this a lot. It's one thing to be gay. It's another thing to be a transgender. I don't know if you've heard it before. I interviewed Bibi Gandanghari, and a lot of her brothers were also telling her, gay ka na nga, nag-transgender ka pa. Do you get that? Did you get that? And what would be your clap back to that?
No, I think when I decided to go to that transition by undergoing the gender affirmation intervention by Kaiser, after 2 years, I decided to have, my first surgery, which is the breast implant. So that's when I didn't have to ask my mom and dad, can I have it? I just told them, I said, I'm gonna get this done because this is me and this is what I wanted to become.
Right.
So they go through that phase of accepting me at that point. So to that, going back to that question of being gay, and then you become a trans woman, I think that's a phase that all trans women go through. That in reality, like they go through that phase of being gay, being feminine, and then they move into becoming a trans woman. Because once they find their inner core, then they realize that, oh, I want to be a woman, not gay.
Right.
And I think every individual go through that phase as well. Even heterosexual, they go through the phase of finding themselves, and even us. So we go through that phase. So I mean, it's probably a double sword. Like, you know, stab you once, stab you twice when it comes to our family. But I think as long as you explain it to them and you try to make them realize that the most important thing in life is the personality.
Right.
The person you're raising,
Right.
not the sexuality.
Right. I imagine it as a fork, where this way is whether you become gay but still look like a man, and then this way where you transition into womanhood,
To
right?
woman, yeah.
And so people just choose one or the other.
Yeah, it's the soul that needed surgery. Like, you don't have to change how you look and undergo all those knives, but look beyond that beautiful face. The heart is the most important thing.
In spite of being LGBTQ, going through being bullied, being ridiculed, that you were able to rise above, and here you are now as a professional commanding respect.
So it took me a lot of courage, just a lot of hard work. I remember my mentor, and I call him Nanay. On my very first pageant, when I was 14-year-old, he told me, you can join beauty pageants left and right, but you cannot put that in your resume. Remember, the most important thing in this world is education. So, anak, prioritize your education, and I did that. So to my family, without further explanation, and I always tell them, I said, you know, I did my very best. I was a good daughter growing up. I've always been the top notch of the class. So that was my gift to you, and this time, give it back to me.
Their acceptance and
Yeah.
their support. That is so touching. I'm sure a lot of people are taking notes, should be taking notes if you aren't. You talked about the pageant. You did excel in pageant as well. You competed, right? Tell us about the competition in Spain.
So I represented the Philippines in Spain way back in 2017. So there was like 26 candidates all over the world. I was crowned as beyond the crown. So there's two crowns. So there's the Miss Trans Star International, and there's Beyond the Crown. So Beyond the Crown is actually given to a trans woman that has impressive curriculum vitae, that can speak, that do a lot of community works in and outside the pageant.
So in a way, it's even higher than the actual crown, the actual title of Miss Trans, because you're beyond the crown, right? What were your top 3 painful experiences?
The support that you get from the family. So imagine if you don't have that, you have a higher tendency of becoming wrong, of doing drugs and just becoming an escort. You have higher risk of depression and suicidal.
You're pretty much talking to the parents that are watching that if you have LGBTQ children, this is the first thing that they need is support from the family.
Yep.
Right. Okay, the second challenge.
Or getting there to become successful. That's a challenge. So no matter how good I am during the interview,
It's like a handicap.
it's like a
You'll be
handicap.
judged.
You'll be
yeah,
judged according to being a trans woman. I think the third is finding happiness. But as a trans woman, I think it's even harder for us that finding partner, finding love, and finding someone to fully accept you. It's difficult.
Would you change anything? If you had the power to change one thing in your life, would you change it? What would
I wouldn't. How I wish when I was younger there's more resources. How I wish the world have given us those needs that we have right now. So these generations are lucky to have all the resources. So give it to them.
What more do you think can the community do to support the LGBTQ community?
There's so many things, even though, more than 40 years ago, we've really came
So far.
so far
Right.
when it comes to LGBT rights, and there's more things to do. So I'm so glad there are, LGBT organizations that organize a lot of activities and working with the government to put in a bill or a protection, a law that protects LGBTs, not just at school, not just at work, but in general. And there's a lot of countries that does not provide that support. So I think that's one thing I wanted to see. So LGBT should stand strong, solid, and have that tenacity to continue working with our rights. And I think that's a basic human dignity.
As Filipinos, not everyone is still as accepting, as tolerating as as everyone else, right? Of the LGBTQ community. What would you tell us? What would you tell them?
I think if we only provide that care, sensitivity, and kindness to us and to every single individual, then we find ourselves loving and understanding each other. Because no matter what your gender marker, no matter what your sexuality is, but if you give that to that person, you're never gonna go wrong. It doesn't cost you $1 million. So if you can give that to us, that is totally appreciated. And that's what we are just yearning for. We're not asking for a special attention or special time, but we're asking our rights to be respected, to be given to us.